In this project, we are asked in the first instance to research Dazed and Robbie Spencer to gain an understanding of their storytelling. Within the context of their work, we are expected to create an editorial response within the narrative of the publication using the signature of the stylist. Whilst combining both of the styles together, we are also expected to explore how the fashion communication industry is changing and how we as the next generation of communicators are going to tackle the new challenges facing the industry. Wasted Youth captures the aftermath of COVID-19 and the effects it's had on Generation Z, and as the lasting effects it will have upon Generation Alpha. Many brands have begun or are already looking at new forms of telling the stories of the brands and collections to current and future generations. Fashion has undergone a revolution in the digital age of the pandemic and has been catapulted into a new communication landscape, foreign to many industry experts. This has led to many stylists having to become more versatile and conceptual when it comes to telling the stories of the fashion world. Before COVID-19, Robbie Spencer became the editor of Dazed and Confused magazine in 2013 and was renowned for his conceptual depth in his work and the new perspectives he brings to a fashion shoot. Using Robbie's quote, "You need to learn from someone and be in the right environment to understand how the industry works and how to communicate. Then you can take from that and you can go and find your own point of view on it." Using this quote as my springboard into my Wasted Youth styling project, I plan to develop my current understanding of the fashion landscape and from there begin to evolve and progress my own point of view. Robbie's style adapts to each shoot, however, he stays true to the brand's narrative and maintains authenticity and transparency. This highlights the brand's natural aesthetic and allows the brand to tell and depict a clear and concise campaign aligned with the brand's morals and culture. What I admired most about Robbie's styling is his ability to capture the raw, authentic humanity despite what the shoot required of him. Throughout the research of Generation Z, this was a key aspect into the future of communication. Generation Z had a strong desire for authentic and transparent media and communication after the pandemic revealed a dystopia in which we had been living in. There began to be an influx of hyper-individualism and mass trends existing equally and comfortably together, and as a generation, we've begun analysing how social media has changed the ways we as Gen Z articulate our identities. With the idea of authenticity and transparency in the forefront of my mind, I began to look at Dazed and how they tell their visual narratives. Dazed magazine's audience is Generation Z at the moment, with their mission being to inspire upcoming generation to consistently explore culture and trend in their environment in order to discover their own identity, something which Generation Z holds important to them as their journey through a time of hyper-individualism. Dazed was born from a British club culture aesthetic, a style in which I have explored with greatly in past projects. However, following Robbie's quote, I want to find my own view on Dazed magazine, as I myself am a member of Generation Z. Following this idea of Dazed, focusing on different culture to unite generations of youth across the globe, I want to find one tie that connects us all together, which would be COVID-19. As a generation, we became the most affected. Using Dazed, radical views, and the way it tells its stories, I wanted to narrate a raw and transparent opinion of Generation Z's outlook on their future. Going into my first experimental photo shoot, my aim was to try and replicate Robbie's styling, poses, and analyse what the camera captures. Robbie's styling was often approached from an outward view of the picture, executing an image or space, rather than just from a clothing point of view. Keeping this in mind, I began looking at facial features to tell my story, believing this captured the C-gest I was aiming for of Generation Z. Transparent, raw, and authentic, instead of putting too much focus on materialistic things such as clothing. Since it was a shoot for Dazed, it allowed me to focus and explore other conceptual ideas rather than shooting for a brand, where often you need the clothing to tell the brand's narrative. After developing images for my first shoot, I went on to begin to look at two different aspects I could add more depth to my concept for the styling shoot narrative for Dazed. Colour and collaboratives who have worked for Robbie while he was an editor at Dazed seem to be my new way forward. I wanted to explore colour as often Dazed magazine's front covers depict a bold colour image, which helps to stand out from its competition. I didn't want the colour to become tacky or gimmicky, so I stuck with 4 colours, red, blue, purple and green, to experiment with and find out the hidden meanings behind the colours to build my concept of wasted youth. The colour theory can be then seen experimented with in my second shoot, involving me projecting colourful patterns over the face and seeing what mood and aesthetic they portray through the camera lens. The same thing occurred during the styling of this photo shoot as last time. The main focus seemed to be on the eye and facial features to tell the story. I kept this colour theme as it added to the concept, and when discussed with industry, we agreed that trying to create a glossy magazine cover can sometimes come off as gimmicky and novice, which led me down the route of taking my photos I had so far and bringing a digital element to them. After the colour experiment shoot, I then proceeded to look at collaboratives who have worked with Robbie, whose strengths are more focused on capturing a raw image of a person to depict an emotion or a deeper concept. I looked at Arnaud Laurgine to begin with. From Paris, Laurgine focuses his lens on the intimate moments that don't always make the cut in fashion. This links with the conversation for trying not to recreate a glossy styling shoot. He is known for his inner eye and the propensity for capturing the unexpected. He favours chance in his work, often layering his images in subtle ways that can be easily missed. He is noted for his eye for the beautiful and bizarre. I decided to extract Laurgine's style of his inner eye and layer in his image in subtle ways, as well as Robbie's authenticity and transparency, and carry this idea forward through my final photo shoot stylings and editorials. This was one of 2 of my final exhibition pieces. However, I didn't like this one as much as it obstructed the actual photo that I wanted, and the layering seemed too obvious and didn't link to Laurgine's aesthetic. This was my final exhibition piece and also shows Laurgine's layering of his images in subtle ways. I believe this image captures brilliantly Laurgine's style of layering his images in a subtle way, and it really connects with Gen Z from their digital aspect, but also wanting transparency through media and communication. Having grasped the outline of my styling concept, I set about to add my final element to my styling project, the future of fashion communication. For this, I went back to Dazed and began researching into an era they call monomass. Monomass is described as hyper-individualism and mass trends existing equally and comfortably together, analysing how social media has changed the ways we as Gen Z articulate our identities. It believes the pandemic hasn't created a dystopia, it's revealed one. This underpinned my ideas around Generation Z and Alpha Generation will want in terms of their future communication. Authenticity from social media and brands will be key. However, with the rise of technology after the pandemic, we are seeing a new emerging fashion landscape called the metaverse. The metaverse initially goes against the values that are predicted for Generation Z and the Alpha Generation, but with the trend prediction of the death of the influencer as well, I'm currently forecasting, after research into different brands evolving in this new landscape, that the metaverse will be more of a trend that dies out and will be replaced with a more meaningful and original organic way of communication. Here is a short clip which showcases my feature for Dazed's Wasted Youth, which can be used as a digital advertising tool or as a digital front cover for the magazine. This image shows my subtle layering in Photoshop from my photo shoot images, and also the interviews I conducted with Gen Z